But our first game, as we mentioned, is going to be ETC versus Monsanto. Monsanto topping out his division for quite some time, being the only undefeated Americas player going against ETC, who's struggling a little bit. He was kind of in the middle of the pack, but now he's 4-6, TJ.
Yeah.
Where do you think ETC season has gone wrong?
I honestly don't know. He had a great start, but I think it's just a matter of not getting the matchups that he's wanted. He's been playing Cyclone Mage a lot, and I feel like his Cyclone Mages just lack a little bit. Cyclone Mage is one of those decks that you can tech with your primary deck to beat a lot of different things, especially with Luna's Pocket Galaxy being buffed. That gives you a very viable option to counter or control style decks like Warrior. ETC has opted to go for a kind of lean Cyclone Mages over the past like 3 or 4 weeks. On average, and it's no different today, where he doesn't have Archmage Antonidas, doesn't have Luna's Pocket Galaxy, and he's going up against Monsanto, who's playing Warrior. So it's kind of interesting to see how this is going to play out. Monsanto's bringing a greedy Control Warrior deck with, I guess, not really calling it greedy. It has Archivist Elysiana, which most Control Warriors do. And ETC, I don't know, has the threat package in this primary to get the job done, which has seemed to be a trend when he's brought Cyclone Mage to Grandmasters.
Gotcha. So here's the deck list that TJ was describing. Now that he's done explaining everything, we'll throw in the visual.
Well, one of the cool things is I was playing ETC's deck in the in-house caster tournament.
Yes.
I was playing his lineup, and it feels pretty good. But in mirror matchups, specifically for the primary deck and against Warrior for the primary deck, you do run out of gas, it seems. He does have Acidic Swamp Ooze, which, can be good against Warriors. But it seems like he has teched against Rogue first primary, and he's not going to be going up against Rogue in this matchup. Taking a look at Monsanto's. So I think the list that I have is different. It seems like he has Control Warrior as his main deck and Mecha'thun input in his tertiary deck.
Yes, so there was a graphical error where Monsanto accidentally submitted his tertiary deck. It looked like he submitted it as his primary, and then when he switched to his tertiary deck, it looked like he switched 10 cards.
He switched 10 cards, yeah.
Which was not allowed based off the rules, but it looks funny because his tertiary looked like it was his primary and vice versa. So,
so his primary deck is the true Control Warrior, and then his tertiary deck is the one that we just saw that has the Mecha'thun package.
Because it's shocking, to say the least, to bring Mecha'thun in your primary deck. I feel like that is not only risky, it's ill-advised.
Yeah, and you can see right now, primary deck, the difference that we saw from the graphic is that Archivist Elysiana was not in the list that we saw in the graphic. So that was his tertiary deck that you were looking at, which is not really going to be relevant in this matchup. I think Monsanto's going to be primary for game 1 and secondary for games 2 and 3 if possible. But it is Control Warrior versus Cyclone Mage to start things off.
Yep, we've seen this matchup dozens of times by now in the Grandmasters, and if ETC can't get that early game start, we'll see if he can conjure up a way for an alternative win condition. I do agree with Saddle when he says Rabble Bouncer tends to be an overvalued card, and I do think that's going to be a point of weakness. Instead of having Rabble Bouncer, he has Rebel Bouncer over the other tools that would be good against the Warrior, like Luna's Pocket Galaxy and Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for Monsanto to potentially be able to regain a lot of those percentage points that he would normally be unfavored against a mage.
Yep.
Because ETC lacks a lot of those power cards because perhaps he was anticipating more aggressive matchups or perhaps going up against rogues.
Yeah, it seems like Rogue was his target, and specifically with power cards, Luna's Pocket Galaxy, yes, is very, very, very powerful against Warrior. Just having Archmage Antonidas, I think, is crucial, and ETC lacks that in his primary deck, because a lot of times what happens is, yes, you can get some damage in if you hit face a couple times with Giants while they're trying to wait for removal, or if they have to brawl away and you're left with a Giant, you get that face damage in, but closing the game is the difficult part, and Archmage Antonidas lets you have that burst damage to close out games. And without that, ETC's kind of all in on landing a Mountain Giant or Sea Giant, Conjur's calling it, and dodging removal. And Monsanto, because he's playing Control Warrior, he has a lot more tools to be able to deal with things. He has double Brawl, double Mega Devastator, even an Execute Even if you look at his secondary deck, he's got another Execute, Big Game Hunter, Super Collider. I feel like it's going to be really hard for ETC to kind of get a foothold. But if he is able to, if he lands an early Mountain Giant with Conjurer's Calling and Monsanto doesn't have their removal available, then that's why a lot of players, you know, think that Mage is a favorite against Warrior.
All right, well, with this, ETC discovers a Splitting Image, which is an effective card against your opponent that tries to use minions as removal options against your giants. That being said, Monsanto does have the Shield Slam and ways to gain armor. It is something worth evaluating. I have seen players, for example, forego the board and try to reduce the armor count when I was playing Warrior. It was actually in this exact matchup, too. My opponent had, you know, like a Banana Buffoon and like a Stargaze Lunar. Instead of trading with like my 1-2 or anything on the board, they just kept hitting face to reduce my ability to Shield Slam my giant.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, their giant. And I thought that was a really clever way to go about it, because Warrior without Shield Slam feels like they have to piece together two forms of removal.
Yeah.
And with so many waves of threats from ETC, with the fact that Conjurer's Calling can summon a lot of these minions, you know, it's it's one of those things where maybe Monsanto runs into trouble if he doesn't have all the removal tools that he needs traditionally against this. Look at this. He's going to Invocation the Mountain Giant and set up the Splitting Image.
Yeah, this is mostly a bluff, I feel, just for the fact that if Monsanto had Shield Slam, it deals with this giant anyway. There's nothing that Monsanto would attack into the Mountain Giant in order to remove it this early on in the game. Like, there's no Super Colliders, Militia Commander doesn't touch it. So I think this is more of a bluff than anything. He's trying to force additional resources from Monsanto.
Yeah,
or maybe
the coin out of the hand.
Get the coin out of the hand, get another, you know, maybe another targeted spell out of the hand, or I guess there's only Execute. There's no Shield Slam in this, or sorry, just Slam in this list. But
yeah, I like it. I like what it does because Monsanto can't really prepare for that. He knows that this was generated off of Magic Trick, so he knows that it's equally likely to be any secret. And so he's going to test for the counterspell. Goes for the Shield Slam afterwards because he knows that Spellbender is a possibility, but if it is, then it is. It looks like he gets confirmation that it's none of those things, doesn't see Mirror Image either. So he should know that it's something attacking related, whether attacking a minion or attacking face. Not going to attack with his weapon into his opponent's life total because I think that would not really change much if it was Ice Barrier.
Yeah. I understand ETC's want to bluff there, but Monsanto knows that if he has Shield Slam in hand, he's going to try and Shield Slam that anyway, right? There's nothing that he's going to do that's going to attack into it because Militia Commander doesn't touch it. So while it's kind of a cute way to try and bluff your way into having a Mountain Giant stick or forcing Monsanto to use extra resources, it's trading the Elemental Evocation for a coin. Which, you know, you could, you know, kind of look at those similarly because you're able to coin out a Mountain Giant or get a cheaper Mana Cyclone. But I feel like big swing turns, especially with the way ETC's primary list is built with Mana Cyclone, are going to be crucial for him to win. I think he is going to need something a little bit extra. So it's kind of a tough scenario. I understand why he goes for it, and also getting the Splitting Image out of the way also has benefit, but not paying off. We'll see if it does in the long run.
ETC playing another giant, and Monsanto may interpret this as a Splitting Image because I think Vaporize is a very weird secret setup, and so is Ice Barrier. So based off the natural deduction, should know that this is Splitting Image. How does he deal with it now? His best play is to remove it is a Brawl, but that feels like a waste. He can clear this off with the Militia Commander and the Weapon Swing, but with this now knows that it's 100% guaranteed to be Splitting Image.
Yep.
So that does not seem preferable.
Yep. Looking for Execute up the top, even Shield Slam.
Oh,
no, picks up the Shield Slam. And those Mountain Giants are crucial because outside of those
Well,
Mountain Giants, he has Sea Giants and Rabble Bouncers as his 2 high-level threats.
That was also important that ETC had the opportunity to banana and chose not to you know, increase the flexibility of his hand.
Yes.
But he would have also had this opportunity for it to survive the Shield Slam.
Yeah.
Not that he would have been able to convert off of it very much. If it was at, you know, 1 health, it's not like it's doing a lot here.
Yep.
Oh my.
Okay. Well, he can set up for a big Mana Cyclone turn with Banana Buffoon.
If he plays the Banana Buffoon, he does need to play a card.
Yeah, he could go for the Mana Cyclone turn this turn and get 4 spells. Arcane Intellect, Mirror Image, and Double Banana. And he would spend 5, so he'd go up to 8 cards total after the turn was complete. That seems reasonable. He saw a Warpath, so Sorcerer's Apprentice would probably be protected at that stage. Maybe he gets a Brawl out of the way. But if he's going to go for that play, he has to go quickly. Just in case something comes up, looks like he's going to wait a turn.
Okay. Entirely reasonable. But this also gives that turn for setup for Monsanto. So I feel like because of ETC's slow play, the Mountain Giant and the Splitting Image end up not having that much impact to grab any tempo on the board. I mean, granted, Monsanto didn't have the double Shield Slam for removal on the Giants, but if your opponent did have it, just as you had 2 Mountain Giants, because remember, you drawing both of your power cards are likely as them drawing their 2 power cards.
Yep.
Then you're stuck in this position where UGC has to go big and hope the Mana Cyclone can do some heavy lifting.
Yep, all 4 bananas here, plus the Mirror Image. Mana Cyclone will fill up with 5 spells.
Yep. It's a pumped up little lady. Astral Rift. Magic Trick.
Astral Rift can give you the additional threats you need for this matchup as well. Against Saddle yesterday in our tournament, I got a Dragon Ball Scorcher to clear his board and a Ysera from Astral Rift to stick. Now I lost that game, but
yeah, I don't know how.
I don't know how. I was behind the whole game. I needed a miracle.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
But it was Saddle's big win, so he milked the entire thing.
He did.
You roped every turn, asked TJ how he felt. And then it was pretty cathartic that afterwards you lost the series.
Yep. Second series, a clean, easy 2-0.
You already had broken his spirit, that's why.
Yeah, coin both games.
Well, it's because he met me in
games.
the winners final. That's all. Honestly, why he was a broken show.
You warmed him up for me.
Splitting Image summoning another 0-2. I'm pretty sure Saddle is watching the back because even when he wasn't casting the previous weeks,
he watched every second.
He watched every second. He is a dedicated man to his craft, and that's why he's so damn good.
Yep.
You can see this Brawl, speaking of really good, this Brawl very effective at clearing off the board. Chances are everything would have died anyways, given that only the Sorcerer's Apprentice would have survived, and it was a 1 out of 6, I believe, survived. Or 1 out of 7.
1 out of 7,
because of the Splitting Image.
Yep.
So now EDC has stuff. He has Khadgar plus Power Creation on the following turn, but this turn doesn't really have that much great stuff to set up. He could play Mirror Image and then Astral Rift to see if he could get any minions to play substantially. Oh my. Oh, so he gets the unfortunate outcome of 2 of Mage's weakest 6-cost minions.
Is able to land firmly with some 5/5s though. Not terrible for that 6 slot.
Right, and I mean this also makes sense given that ETC says I'm gonna have Conjurer's Calling eventually if this game goes to the distance. I'm gonna save Khadgar for that because I don't want to use it for Power of Creation, potentially get a situation where I have to pick 3 3s, or in this case vanilla 5 5s.
Brilliant Nullifier, kind of the best here. Maybe some merit to Missile Launcher. Missile Launcher can allow you to do some really interesting things, especially with like Vicious Scrap Hound, because all the extra damage that you deal also gains armor. But Brilliant Nullifier, especially after the buff up to from 3 attack to 4 attack, Are you even seeing some players put it in some of their lists? Just because in the later stages of the game, when you do have Dr. Boom Mad Genius rolling, having a 4/8 for 7 mana with Rush that can't be targeted is quite good, especially with magnetic abilities.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the magnetic abilities is what really gives so much flexibility to this Rush, because you could use them as individual minions and removal spells, or you can combine them into one giant swing. ETC picks up Rabble Bouncer, like we were talking about. Doesn't seem as a high impact card right now. Can just play it to have presence onto the board. I do think with 2 mirror entities, he does want to consider how he wants to get them out of his hand, because hand space will be an issue with things like Astral Rift and Stargazer Luna. In fact, he could play Stargazer Luna and the Rebel Bouncer, but I don't know if that's accomplishing that much. Having Stargazer Luna draw 1 card here seems like a missed opportunity when you could potentially use Luna to refill your hand after you dump it.
His hand's going to be tough to dump, and I don't know how aggressively he wants to draw cards. But at this point, you know, you have to kill him. So the longer you wait,
yeah,
yes, you're expediting fatigue, which is pretty much how Monsanto wins this game, but you're also getting less threats, which means that you're going to be less likely to kill Monsanto before you push out of the game.
Your opponent has a Marcus Elysiana. I don't think you're winning in the fatigue stage ever. This mirror entity also isn't really doing anything impactful, but the Magnetize and the good ordering from Monsanto allows him to clear this off very effectively and gain 7 more armor. He's at 50 life now. ETC has so much so much work to do here in order to get back in this game.
He can't even like Ray of Frost this Brilliant Nullifier. Can Frost Nova it and try and push a little bit more? Maybe Frost Nova plus like Magnetize Ziliax, but honestly, how much does that actually accomplish? Doesn't feel like a whole lot.
Yeah, anything you play is vulnerable to an Omega Devastator. ETC needs to wait for Conjurer's Calling. That is his #1 priority. Conjurer's Calling unlocks his entire hand. It makes Khadgar better. It makes Frost Nova much more impactful. It makes Sea Giants cheaper. And also Sea Giants would be your target. So it works hand in hand. You use it on one Sea Giant, the other Sea Giant gets cheaper. It's just a great card. And the lack of it is what's causing ETC to seemingly flounder in this position.
Ooh.
I mean, those are reasonable cards. I've seen worse things come off that.
I've seen much worse things come off from Astral Rift, but I've also seen much better cards come off Astral Rift. So pretty middling results, I'd say. Corkin Elite is just direct damage, which is going to need at least some of that to get back in this game.
Yep. This definitely looks annoying to Monsanto. It appears to be some kind of splitting image again. And given that ETC's been setting up secrets, but hasn't been playing them all at once, makes it lead to believe that perhaps it's a duplicate secret of some kind.
Yeah.
Gonna test for the split image, test for the counter spell. Goes for Omega Assembly. It seems like this is a good opportunity for Monsanto to utilize that Omega Devastator. Oh, interesting. Another Nullifier. Nullifier is just so impactful. You see the how crazy Fairy Dragon can be against Mage. Just amplified by the fact that they have giant mech that can magnetize as well.
Yep.
So if Monsanto doesn't care about the armor, he can take 1 less damage here if he wants to use his own weapon, but looks like in this case...
Well, he already swung with the weapon to test for the splitting image.
You're right. Apologies.
But he does have a great way to just kind of clear things up here, and ETC can't get a hold on the board, and that is a problem. Very nicely sequenced by Monsanto to make sure he checks for each possible secret.
Yeah, well done.
Well done.
TC just, I mean, it looks like the Mage is in such a bad spot because it just hasn't been able to grab any initiative. Anything that ETC's been developing has been shut down. And I think it's a combination of him obviously not having Conjurer's Calling and hasn't been able to discover it or pick it up through random generation. But also just the fact that he let up a little bit, right? He tried to go really aggressive with the Mountain Giants, but didn't have a way to follow up on it. And Monsanto just removed it, and then ETC's like, well, I'm just going to pass for a turn or two. Nice consolation prize. Drawing a card and shutting it down. Second Mana Cyclone here has potential to be pretty impactful. Can also just take down this 6/6 with the Core Crown Elite plus the Weapons Project swing. Which honestly might be his best, better use of this card, because Core Crown Elite I don't think is going to be doing game-ending damage, but perhaps...
and he's got to take this out eventually before Monsanto magnetizes more on it, right? He just saw another Omega Assembly, and while he saw 2 cards from it, you know, what if that last card is a War Gear or another Beryllium Nullifier? Things can get out of hand very quickly, especially Ziliak's still left in the deck for Monsanto. You don't want that to blow you out of the game, especially with that untargetable. But Monsanto, again, not even forced to use Ziliak's or Omega Devastator in order to keep clearing off these board states. And he knows that with 2 Sea Giants still left in the deck, that this Omega Devastator has a target. And with the Sea Giants being very difficult to play, with the way that this matchup usually pans out, which is not very many minions on board with Warpath and Brawl, and just how much removal the Warrior packs in the deck, you're not sticking a wide board unless they just don't have the removal, in which case Sea Giant is usually just a win more card anyway. It's oftentimes cut in secondary or tertiary lists that target Warrior because of its difficulty to play in the matchup.
Interesting. ETC is dumping with his hand, just trying to see if he can get this Mana Cyclone by freezing his own minions. That's how desperate he is to get some kind of gameplay going.
Yeah. Needs a lot of power of creations.
Wow. Like, I thought he was going to maybe throw in the Frost Nova, but instead gets Blast Wave and Conical. These are like mediocre cards. Dynamatic. That's a pretty big one too.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a really cute play that he could do, which is to zap his opponent's Murloc War Leader, play his own Acolyte of Pain, and then Dynamatic.
Yep.
He could have drawn 3 cards.
I don't know how many cards he wants to draw, just because he wants to be able to better choose when to play Arcanist Elysiana.
Yeah. Also, I think was he still test? Does he know the secret, or is he testing for it? Because I think he didn't test for Mirror Entity yet. So this is Spellbender. So if he played Acolyte, he would have given an Acolyte to his opponent.
Yes, which means that Dynamatic would have been
less effective.
Less effective. And maybe you're okay with giving your opponent cards at this stage. He's played both Mana Cyclones. He's got 2 Sea Giants left, but that's it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, come on. When did they get the 3rd Mirror Entity off of a random Secret Generation, too? Very rare. Of course, that's not how probability works. That's actually how you lose in probability when you're like, it shouldn't happen again. You can't. There's no way that it's black for the 7th time in the row. There's no way for the 6th week in a row Admirable will try to find a way to rant about something. But that's not how probability works.
Nope.
Good Kona Cold positioning, by the way. Very annoying for ETC. Not that he would want to Cone of Cold necessarily the Acolyte anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, you know.
Should he have positioned the Acolyte in the middle?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think this is just good. You want to be able to attack, right? You're going to have to kill him eventually, and sheer fatigue is the way to do that. But if you can find a way to do that without having to play Elysiana,
oh my,
ends up being better.
He's going. Looks like he's setting up for a Blast Wave opportunity, but more importantly, maybe he felt like he can overdraw Monsanto.
Yeah, it's also burns a card. Now we know that it won't be an incredibly impactful card because he's already played Mad Genius and has Elysiana in hand.
Right. I think he was hoping for the very low percentage chance to burn Elysiana and go for fatigue scenario.
Yeah.
And we say very low. It's not likely whatsoever.
Yeah.
We have seen crazier things though. And now Monsanto has the ability to delivery drone, so he can set things up. Oh, okay. Elysiana is also not a terrible spot here to play, considering that you can grab tempo against your opponent. Whew. Oh my. I mean, Illidan Stormrage generates boards. It does make Sea Giants cheaper though, so maybe Akali was just better for the impact.
Yeah, but Akali also kind of offsets fatigue a little bit because it draws the other Akali.
What? 2 Omega Devs? What?
Oh, man.
I mean,
Blackwall Pixie's probably better.
yeah, it's just the fact that you get 2 more Mad Geniuses, which just looks flashy.
It looks flashy, yeah.
All right, so the picks were 2 Akalis.
He did pick the Akali.
Yeah, the Lord of the Arena, 2 Omega Devastators, Blackwall Pixie, and
The Brainstormer?
the Brainstormer. It's the gain 1 health for each spell in your hand.
Yep.
So he just has ways to grab tempo quickly, has some nice bombs to drop. Akali could draw Akali too, which is very fun.
Yep.
Arena's full. Beat it.
I think we're going to go this entire game with ETC not playing a single Conjurer's Calling.
It's possible.
I mean, he still has a decent amount of life to work with, but if you're at like 20 life and your opponent just has like a bajillion Omega Devastators, you just feel mentally defeated at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, man. The Akali into the Akali.
Yeah.
And it works out very nicely, too, given that there's the 3 microbots that can go into this 2-7.
Well, he fills up his hand. He'd be at 10 cards at the end of the turn. Because Akali, he could go for Akali without the overkill. And to not draw the second Akali.
Yeah, that's fair.
He could just go for Militia Commander. Because Akali would go the second Akali, and then you'd have to dump a card.
I don't think it's the end of the world if you burn a card versus having a what Akali gives +5/+5.
Yeah, it's
So it's a 10/10 rush. Yeah. I mean, maybe
No, I see your point. I see what you mean.
it could also be the fact that Monsanto's like, well, if it does end up going to fatigue, I don't want to be in a scenario where I draw extra cards for no reason.
Wow. ETC, both Conjurer's Callings in the bottom 4.
Very unfortunate.
Especially with Khadgar in the opening hand and both Mountain Giants in the opening hand. That is...
That's why you keep Conjurers going. A lot of times.
Yeah.
Monsanto at even 50, the 3rd Omega Devastator.
Just going to play Akali, sure. Why not?
Seems fine to me. Keeps his hand size perfectly at 9. Still has Omega Devastator and Omega Assemblies to back it up. And there we finally see it.
Oh, man. And he can't even play C-Giant Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah, he can freeze. But if he freezes and doesn't ping off the 2-1, I mean, Monsanto's not going to develop much more into this.
Nope. No reason to. Even zap off his own Militia Commander here to play the Lord of the Arena.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I think that seems to be a good way to make the Sea Giant still as complicated to play as possible.
Yeah. Yep, smart play. Doesn't want that Sea Giant plus Conjurer's Calling to come out. There's like a weird way that he could die if he lets the Sea Giant being played, is if he Conjurer's Calling into Hakar and then ETC dodges Bloods for 2 turns and then Monsanto hits all the Bloods? I don't know. I don't think it's possible with ETC only having 2 cards left. But.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely.
It would be kind of funny, I guess, but I don't, yeah, impossible at this stage. ETC would need a lot more cards in deck for that to be an out.
Well, Monsanto seems to not really need that many more cards here. I think he's going to ditch the Warpath, push a little bit of damage, and force ETC once again in the same spot he was before, which is he needs to do something about this board, and he keeps stalling for time. Oh, he finds a Khadgar mirror image.
Well, he can mirror image and then Sea Giant Conjurer's Calling.
Right, so he doesn't have to summon too many minions on the board.
Yeah. Because mirror image would make Sea Giant cost 6, and then he'd have 9 mana left.
Okay, so looks like he's going to go
This is the same thing, but you get 3 10?
You get 3 10-mana minions instead, or 2.
Yeah, you only get...
Oh, a Mecha'thun! 2 Mecha'thuns. Well, if he brawls and Mecha'thun survives TJ, he just destroys it with Mega Devastator.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he just destroys it with the Mega Devastator.
Ah, that almost was so cool.
He also had Execute, but the Secret Up is a Spellbender, so unfortunately...
Almost super cool.
Almost super cool.
Oh, wow, you can microbots twice with Blackwall Pixie. That's a full board if you had an empty board.
Yeah. I think you're just ripping the brawl here.
He actually doesn't even need to either, but it's probably a good time to, given that he's ready to use Khadgar. And you have a guaranteed kill on whatever comes out. There's even positive upside. Monsanto might not even have to play Mega Devastator if he wins this brawl. Twice the Mech-Cthulhu, 0 the impact. And ETC is out of cards and out of this game. He's gonna try one last-ditch effort, but he should know that Monsanto has all the removal tools available to him.
Yep.
It's actually impossible for Monsanto to have not drawn removal tools, considering that he has a Mega Devastators and Execute, and there's only 2 cards remaining in his deck when you unleash the arm.
Yeah.
So there's a guaranteed death on that siege.
ETC was hoping that one of the, it was Brawl in the bottom 2, and that board would have stuck. But if Brawl was in the bottom 2, then he would have had double Mega Devastator. It needed to have been like exactly Brawl plus 1 Mega Devastator in the bottom 2 to even have a chance. It's just... that game is one of those games where you kind of suspect that it's over on like turn 8 or 9.
But you play it out.
But you play it out because there's an off chance that all of Monsanto's removal is in the bottom half. And Conjure's Calling your next draw. You get crazy power of creation nonsense from Mana Cyclone. So, but as predicted, ETC falls in the primary deck, but the secondary decks for both players is where it gets spicy. So this second game is the one that I think the crucial point, possibly the turning point for ETC in the series.
Agreed. Agreed. We'll see whose secondary deck will allow them to get into position. Remember, Monsanto is currently in first place. He doesn't want to give any ground to his opponent in the playoff race. So when we come back, we're going to resume the series between our kickoff match here in Week 6 of the Hearthstone Grandmasters.
Hi, I'm Monsanto. I came up with the username Monsanto. I was in high school. It's from the company Monsanto, the big evil corporation. One of my teachers hated that company so much that at the end of the year he told us, well, if you didn't learn anything from my class, it's okay, as long as you remember that you should hate Monsanto. And that was like such a big thing to hear from your teacher, and I just immediately changed all my usernames to Monsanto. My best Hearthstone Esports memory was in 2016 in Summer Prelims. I was facing Dude 7597. I was completely losing on board as Druid against the Zoo Warlock. I had played 5 spells during the game, then I jammed the Yogg-Saron on. It cleared his board, built myself a board, and the next turn I had double Savage Roar for lethal. What makes me special as a player, I think, is I try everything. I try every possibility in decks. I try new things. And so when there's something that went under the radar, there's a big chance that I actually found it and I can bring that deck. Being in Grandmasters means a lot to me. Being able to just compete another full year of Hearthstone, that was a really big thing for me. I want to win the whole thing. That's my personal goal.
My name is Fei Liang. My handle is ETC. Before Hearthstone, I was playing World of Warcraft, and when I saw Elite Tauren shift, and I think the card is pretty cool, I'm gonna try it. I think the style I like the most is combo deck, because there are a lot of win conditions, and there are a lot of ways you can win the game. My son plays Hearthstone sometimes.
Is he good?
He got rank 9. He likes Zoo list.
Are you gonna teach your daughter to play Hearthstone?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think that she'll be better than him?
Probably yes, because I think my daughter is way smarter than my boy. Getting #1 in Grandmaster is gonna totally change my life. I think it proved myself, and my kids are gonna be proud of me.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters. Monsanto is currently up 1-0 over ETC, but we'll see who gets the last laugh, who gets the last chuckle, etc., etc.
Thanks, Dan.
I thought you would appreciate my dad jokes,
I do.
given that you are a father yourself.
It actually had the opposite effect on me. I started telling less dad jokes when I became a dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's because you just don't find things very humorous or enjoyable when you get 2 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah.
Things just kind of bounce off
My
your head.
creativity is just so limited. No, I do. My son sleeps pretty well. He has slept pretty well. And, you know, big shout out to my wife, Karen, for everything that she does for our son, because on days where I have to cash, she lets me sleep in, which I appreciate more than you could know, Dan. More than you could know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how things end up shaping up in the next couple of games and whether or not, you know, that extra sleep will pay off.
Or
I do
whether or
think we
not,
have a warrior mirror today.
or
so.
whether or not I wish I was more tired so I could just power down and nap.
Well, that's
right
what
here
I was
on the
saying.
desk.
Because I believe our second match for today is actually a warrior mirror with Eddie versus
Eddie versus Amnesiac, that's
So,
right. I feel like Eddie's played more warrior mirrors than anybody, probably because he's brought Bomb Warrior almost every week.
Yeah, except for last week where you brought Paladin.
Yeah,
and
we
he was able to get the win.
And it was such a big deal that we even wrote an article about it.
Yeah.
Why did Eddie not bring Bomb Warrior?
Jeez, man, he's supposed to bring warrior. We'll talk about that series as we get to it, but the second game of the series is where I think it gets a lot more interesting. Luna's Pocket Galaxy, Astromancer, Archmage, and Tinnitus all make their way into the deck. Rabble Bouncer, you're out of there. Sea Giant, you're gone. Frost Novas, you don't do anything anyways. But instead, we just have good stuff versus the Warrior. Even throw in the Harrison Jones for double weapon removal.
Yep.
And the key that brings everything together in this neat little package is Luna's Pocket Galaxy to change the cost of minions in your deck to 1. Then you pretty much just have ridiculous combo potential.
Yeah, I do like this matchup a lot better, but Monsanto has put in some extra stuff himself, and that's the extra removal. So we'll see if ETC, his changes can give him a little bit more of an advantage in the series. I think Luna's Pocket Galaxy, Archmage, Tinnitus, those are the two big ones. Astromancer is good, but it's just kind of a place to fill the void of an area where you wouldn't have a threat to play, and get out some removal from your opponent, or try and get out some removal from your opponent.
Ooh, well, last game we started off with no Conjurer's Calling, and now we have double Conjurer's Calling available for ETC in the form of that twin spell. See how you can utilize it. We've seen some mages also prioritize using the Conjurer's Calling early for the tempo, which incidentally would be something kind of inconvenient here for Monsanto, even though it's not traditionally something that you think about, right? You don't think about Conjurer's Calling on Banana Buffoons, but we have seen it used on 3- and 4-mana minions to pressure. That being said, I feel like ETC's hand is fine to not do that.
Yeah.
Because he has these great bananas that he can use to acquire more resources for the Mountain Giant, and you know, he can also just buff his Banana Buffoon instead of Conjurer's Calling to dominate the board.
Yeah, and if you're able to get removal out of the Warrior on just 3 drops, that's also a benefit, because you're not expending that many resources. Another Conjurer's Calling picked up. Very different story than last game, where ETC had both Mountain Giants and Khadgar in his opening hand, but both Conjurer's Calling were in the bottom 4. This game he has both Conjurer's Calling, but those big threats that he can play early on in the game are missing. So we'll see how he manages these resources and how fast he wants to take this. Like the slow play, I guess you could call it, is just 1 banana on the Banana Buffoon, trade to the Eternium Rover, ping face. Try and see what your next draw is and see where you're going to be going in the following turn.
There must be a way.
Yeah, I love Banana Buffoon. I think it is one of the unsung heroes of this deck. I think its art is also extremely humorous. Is he trying to sell you bananas, or is he just collecting them? Is he one of those people at the Hearthstone baseball game just throwing out bananas and you just catch them? Or perhaps is this my next idea for an outfit for the upcoming Masters Tour Seoul? All questions that's going through my head right now.
I feel like, you know, flavor text is fantastic, but one of the things I'm missing is a backstory.
Yes.
Because you are correct, Dan. looking at Banana Buffoon just raised so many questions.
Relatively ambiguous.
And
it's also raining bananas. What world is this? I want to be part of that. Well, it's banana peels, which makes it a lot less fun. If it was just straight up bananas floating onto the ground.
Well, then the question becomes, who's eating the bananas? Is he eating the
clearly
bananas?
Me. Oh, sorry. In this world, yes.
And Banana Buffoon's flavor text. You could say he has a certain appeal. Yeah, that's a knee slapper if I've ever heard one.
I mean, yeah, you still got the dad joke delivery. That part hasn't eluded yet. Omega Devastator down on turn 4 for tempo. Monsanto doesn't have much of a choice. These are terrible execute targets. Shield Slam and Brawl, these are great things in the late game to try and answer a giant board, but not really much to do here. And I agree with Monsanto's analysis. Given that Banana Buffoons plus bananas themselves could dominate the board, he needs his 4-5 to challenge early on.
Yeah.
And ETC does pick up the Sorcerer's Apprentice, which actually gives him surprising amount of plays this turn. He has the ability to play Sorcerer's Apprentice and just a bunch of bananas and dominate the early game board. He does walk into some other things like Dynamatic that could be problematic, but he also could throw in a Mirror Image. But then is he dumping his hand too much, making Astromancer and an upcoming Mana Cyclone, or even a Mountain Giant weak? These are all things that's going through his head that he's evaluating.
Yeah, it feels like every play that he makes this turn that goes heavily onto the board is weak to something. If he plays the Mirror Image, plays around Dynamatic, but plays more into Warpath. So, like, he can go for it. He can even Conjurer's Calling one of the Banana Buffoons to try and...
Yeah, I actually think I like the Conjurer's Calling play.
Yeah.
Okay. So one banana to make the Sorcerer's Apprentice out of range of the Warpath.
But if that's the case, I would have hit the Omega Devastator with the second Banana Buffoon. So then if he Warpaths, he kills off his Omega Devastator before it touches the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Because now, he Warpaths, trades an Omega Devastator, you have a clear board anyway. So this is a middle ground, and I would have liked this play if he had pre-traded the Banana Buffoon. Because then it would have been pretty obvious what his goal was here, which was specifically to play around Warpath, and to an extent, Omega Devastator, or sorry, Dynamatic.
Yeah, I don't disagree. However, I think ETC benefited a lot from having this extra 2/2 on the board now. Does increase the flexibility of his plays because he could Conjurer's Calling, play Banana Buffoon. He could just, play Conjurer's Calling on the Banana Buffoon, react, utilize bananas, or just hero power.
Well, we talked so much about Banana Buffoon that he wasn't ready to depart.
Yeah, he brought back a friend.
He did. A friend with exactly as many bananas as he had.
It's one of those things where I bet that Banana Buffoon that just got summoned went through a lifetime of experiences, TJ. He lived and died and heroically came back and made friends with this Farseer and has this epic journey. It's like, well, dude, you were gone for 2 seconds.
That's a great premise for... if any higher-ups at Blizzard are watching and you're currently thinking about developing a Hearthstone movie...
Yes.
Dan is the perfect person to storyboard some ideas for you.
Warcraft 2, the movie.
Because Warcraft was great.
Banana Buffoon returns.
Warcraft was great and all. It was a great movie, very epic. Gave some nods to players that have played World of Warcraft over the years, but it was missing something, Dan. It was missing just a little something.
The adventures of Billy the Banana Buffoon need to happen, and let me tell you, he is blown away that he came to this world and sees another Billy right next to him.
Who's a little bit stronger.
Well, he ate a banana, so... It's like, well, those aren't for eating. Those are for selling.
Or throwing or collecting. One of the things.
You're not supposed to take money out of the cash register. And you definitely don't burn down the HUD. You've watched the rest of it.
I have, yeah.
Okay.
It was a little...
You gave me this...
because you were kind of trying to beat around the bush, because you didn't say the 100%.
The line, there's always money in the banana stand.
There's always money in the banana stand.
Yeah.
I actually just watched it. I was a little late on the Arrested Development train.
It's fantastic. Khadgar plus Conjurer's Calling. Name a more iconic duo. Bye, Billy. Watch him come back again.
A stranger will offer
Wow.
you aid.
That's actually very scary.
So this is the part of the movie where
Are we still on this analogy?
the villains take over.
Well, it's
Billy's stuck in a forest, and he comes across 2 jungle panthers.
yeah.
And the Tanglefur mystics come to help him survive.
Basically all the furry creatures come out.
The
and help
furry
him.
creatures come out and help
He
him.
died. Yeah. It's the attack of all the jungle creatures.
Yeah, you know in Snow White when all the creatures come through the forest to honor the death of the mother deer or whatever?
We sacrifice Billy.
To sacrifice Billy to have this stage.
Yeah. It's the alternative ending.
How's this movie gonna end, Dan?
It never ends. That's the whole point. That's how we make more money off the customers. This is the ending of.
You're thinking in true, but
This is the ending of
Dan, I
Bambi.
appreciate it.
This is the ending of Bambi that your parents didn't want you to see. All right, enough about this. Monsanto needs to deal with this board, and I think brawling is called for, but it's not preferable given that, obviously ETC can just set up bigger boards in the future. But I don't really see anything else for Monsanto to do here.
Nope.
His hand has just been all removal plus, like, Militia Commander. Whoa! He wins! That hurts. That stings. Things are just not going ETC's way in this series.
No. And while Astromancer would be a good card to play in this situation, on 7, board just got removed. Great refill.
Right. It
Likely
gets
to
challenged.
die from the Super Collider.
Yes.
Would be a 7-drop.
Yeah.
7 drops, some of them have more health than they do attack. That's kind of the ideal situation. Pulling like a Furious Etten. But even like the best ones die with the Super Collider Swing plus the Omega Devastator that survived the Brawl.
He could alternatively go for a Luna play with the Mana Cyclone.
Okay.
I don't know if I like that because it makes his Astromancer potentially a lot weaker. Like, yes, he gets some of the spells back, but... I mean, I guess you are still... You're still net 1 card.
Yeah. He
Because
will,
of the draw.
Yep, pick up 3 spells plus a draw from his deck.
Yeah. So it ends up being okay because he ends up getting that extra draw. So I miscalculated. Astromancer's perfectly fine. So.
Behold the
Oh, another
tools of
evocation.
creation.
keep drawing. Is that a Ray of
Behold
Frost?
the tools of creation.
It is Ray of Frost. It's going super fast. Yeah, so the Luna play ends up working out really nicely.
Yeah.
His hand size was replenished. The Stargaze Luna allows him to draw that extra card. And now Astromancer's even better. So all's well that ends well, I suppose.
Yep. You can pick Harrison Jones to set up for a better Astromancer by removing the Super Collider. Monsanto can get a little bit of value this turn. He can go for a swing with the Super Collider on the Mana Cyclone and then Militia Commander down the Stargazer Luna. That honestly, or could do Dynamatic as well. Both of those plays work just fine.
This is one of the situations, though, where it's like Monsanto has so much removal, and he has very limited minion response to get recursive damage onto the board. So, given that he has 2 Shield Slams and 2 Executes, I don't really blame him if he just ends up using a Shield Slam here and take it a little bit slower.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, still perfectly reasonable. This ends up being fine because he sets up more power on the board, so based off what you were saying.
Yeah, and I think the Dynamatic also can sometimes be harder to use because you won't often have like a clean removal on something, whereas this was reasonably clean.
EDC does have opportunity to even Conjure's calling this 5-drop, but I think no matter how he plays it, he's still going to be vulnerable to a few things. It is also the turn before your opponent has access to a Mega Assembly and the other copy of a Mega Devastator.
Whew.
He does have Astromancer, so if he holds on to Conjure's Calling, he should be able to get some really big plays off. Next turn, he has the ability to go for Mana Cyclone plus Magic Tricks, set up for a huge hand. And Monsanto has Tempo, which isn't necessarily that bad of a thing to do right now. He could He could like use the shield slam and just set up board preemptively. And he's threatening a lot of damage. The one thing he has to be worried about is if ETC goes for a chain amount of freezes. But remember, ETC removed Frost Nova from his deck. He removed Siege Giant and Rabble Bouncers. So those big board swing opportunities against Warrior don't really exist. And the cards that are supposed to replace it, the Luna's Pocket Galaxy, the Archmage Antonitis, aren't really a thing right now.
Yep.
Interesting. Just wants to play it really slow. Oh, man. He wants to play it really slow, TJ. And I don't think ETC is going to let him.
No, and the problem with like trying to hold tempo in this matchup is that, yeah, you get damage in, but this is Control Warrior. It's not Bomb Warrior. So the damage that you do is not as relevant because you don't have the ability to end the games with bombs. You don't have that clock. He has to remove everything that ETC plays and survive, especially considering he cut Archivist Elysiana in this secondary deck to make room for the additional removal. So basically, Monsanto's game plan is to hope that his removal just lines up well enough with ETC's stuff, and at the end of the day, he can survive like a couple fireballs from Archmage Antonitis.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. You know, I wasn't really thinking about that. Perhaps just looking at Warrior and seeing, oh, you have inevitability. Why not just go for it? But when you analyze it like that, it makes a ton of sense. Whoa! Oh. He picks up the Dynamatic #2, which lines up very nicely with everything. He can even push 7 damage.
So I said that tempo doesn't matter, but when you have this big of a board outside of created by spells, which would be like Blizzard into Flame Strike or something along those lines.
I mean, this is part of the reason why I thought even keeping the Militia Commander on board would have been nice to push that extra 2 damage, right? And then you parting ways with the Shield Slam. Yeah. ETC does have plays available to him. In fact, if he gets a Frost Nova off this magic trick, he'll be very much in business. These are also decent secrets.
Yeah, Ice Barrier and Vaporize buy him some more time, and with Monsanto using his removal so aggressively here, it means that ETC can play a little bit of the long game. He does have to try and go for some big plays here soon with Mountain Giant.
Conjurer's Calling. Ray of Frost. Ray of Frost here looks like it could be massive because he can squeeze in that Mana Cyclone this turn.
But Conjurer's Calling is so powerful.
Yeah, but he already has other Conjurer's Calling, and I believe actually he's used 2 of them for the twin spells.
The 2 to the far left are the natural ones. He just uses 1 copy of each. So
all right, I see that.
Having 1 additional one is now it gives him access to 4 total Conjurer's Calling left.
I just feel like your opponent's been holding certain cards for so long. He's been playing from the right side of his hand. He has to have more removal tools options available to him.
Vaporize. So he's playing a little bit of a defensive game plan here.
He has to because there's too much power on the board. Yep. What, 14? And he was at 13?
Big game hunter. Monsanto, I wonder if he wants to part ways with the Shield Slam here to play around Mirror Image. Or, sorry, Splitting Image.
Yes, he does. Sees that it's not Spellbender, Counterspell. Sees the Vaporize, gets 7 more damage in.
Yep.
But this is where you talk about the lack of bombs, the lack of Blastmaster Boom. It does hurt. And ETC.
Tempo big game hunter.
I like it.
Set it for the lethal.
He does. He needs to set up a way to win.
But this plays into Blast Wave a little bit. He knows that there's 2 more random spells remaining. Well, 3 if you consider the Conjurer's Calling for Magic Trick. But this does force ETC to play defensively, which means he doesn't have the luxury of trying to be proactive with his plays. And the more cards he dumps from his hand, that's the less resources he has for to make Mountain Giants cheaper, to make more powerful turns, more spell fodder for Archmage Antonitis, especially with both Billy the Banana Buffoons gone.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. He doesn't have the bananas to quickly activate it either. Another Conjurer's Calling. He just needs that 5 health, though, effectively.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think he really needs that nearly as much as he needs things like Ray of Frost to stall and maybe even squeeze in Mana Cyclone.
Yep.
This is a scary spot, because what if he doesn't land the Grave Horrors?
So he can Arcane Intellect and still play Mountain Giant plus Conjurer's Calling here.
Yes.
But if he doesn't, if he doesn't get Grave Horrors,
He's just
dead.
And even if he does, there's Shield Slam and Execute.
Oh!
He's dead.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, even if he got 1 Grave Horror, Shield Slam kills it. If he gets 2 Grave Horrors, that makes it a little interesting because Monsanto has to draw like Warpath off the top, some way to deal 1 damage, slam. But Super Cloud, he had 1 left in the deck. So a rough situation of Monsanto recognizing in that mid stage of the game that I just play my minions. Tempo Big Game Hunter, forcing ETC into positions where he couldn't even play Mountain Giant. He couldn't even play threats. Control Warrior beating up the mage.
Yeah,
Not something
that's
you
so
often
unusual.
see, but kind of cool.
Play to your outs, and recognize that yes, the big game hunter wants to line up on the giant, and yes, you want to use like Shield Slam on the big threats, but he finally was leveraging his removal. And here's the thing. He ended the game with 2 executes and a Shield Slam that he didn't even necessarily need, so he could have used it to push even more damage. Remember, we're talking about like Militia Commander can go on the board as a 2-attack minion. He would have been 2 damage closer and not have to do that removal. And then on the other side, ETC had 4 copies of Conjurer's Calling. Of course, had he known he would have generated those extra copies, he probably wouldn't have picked it. But it's one of those things where, he got a little bit too greedy? Perhaps is Gamer 1 too fresh in his mind where he realized he needed Conjurer's Calling the entire time and didn't have it, and now he has a surplus of it? These are questions that I think are worth asking. In the end, that's what makes Cyclone Mage just a tricky deck to play because there's so many ways that you feel like you need to think about, and it's not exactly clear in those exact moments what you need to do until it's almost too late.
Yeah, and even going back to the 1 turn where you're like, oh, Ray of Frost over Conjurer's Calling, that would have bought him time. Small things like that can make the difference, and it seems like from watching ETC over the past 4 weeks after his good start, this seems to be the kind of trap that he falls into where he brings Cyclone Mage, but then like just barely falters, like has the tools to get it done, but then barely falters at the end, and very close, but close isn't going to cut it. And now what, 4 and 7?
4 and 7
is his score, so
almost out of contention race completely. But one player who's almost certainly locked in his spot is Monsanto, who's joining us for a brief interview. Monsanto, you there?
Yeah.
What's up, dude? So you're using Control Warrior to beat the mages now. Did that go as smoothly as you planned?
Actually, in practice, I realized how unfavored I was. I think Control Warrior used to be very favored against Mage, and now the one card that changes it is Luna's Pocket Galaxy. Like, whenever they draw that card, the game's completely over. So, I mean, things went my way. He didn't draw it on the second game, and I had a chance. And I don't know exactly what he drew, but, like, I've almost never seen that happen where a controller can just kill the mage.
Yeah, his hand was like 4 Conjurer's Callings. 2 of them were the second version.
Yeah, he got randomly generated Conjurer's Calling. His hand at the end was 2 Mountain Giants, 4 Conjurer's Calling, Archmage, Antonitis.
And a Mana Cyclone.
And a Mana Cyclone, if that gives you an idea of what it was.
Conjurer's Calling is better with minions, yeah.
It is. It's much better. Yeah, but when you're getting beat up by Omega Devastators for the whole game, you don't really have a chance to play minions.
Dude, was that the Omega No, that wasn't the Omega Devastator you played on 4 that survived to the end of the game, right? He drew a second copy of it.
I think it definitely was.
It was?
It lived the whole time.
Oh my goodness.
It survived the brawl, and then it lived all the way to the end.
Yeah, dude, that, I mean.
Yeah, it got killed by the Ziliax, I think, right? Am I?
Yeah.
One of them, yeah.
Okay, yeah, one of them did. So, hey, you are 8-3 now, and prime position to make the playoffs here. That's really, really amazing stuff. Going into week number 6, what was the preparation like, given that this is probably one of the more settled periods of Grandmasters so far?
Yeah, I haven't brought Warrior, and I mentioned a couple times that I don't play Warrior, so I was like, I'm going to bring Bomb Warrior, and then I was on a call with Race and Eddie. And then Race brought the idea of Control Warrior, and I'm a fan of Control Warrior, so I got baited into it. And
baited.
I mean, it's better than Bomb Warrior against Mage, so like I'm happy I brought it, and I can get the win.
Yeah, and I think if you split games 1-1, you're guaranteed to playoffs. So this is still really good, even though you got baited into it. You could argue. Mm-hmm. So at least. Going 1-1 here in this week, I think almost certainly guarantees position. But we'll have to go ahead and look at the standings. Any other commentary on like how the division's shaping up? Obviously, you're in first place there, but is there anything else that we should be on the lookout for?
I mean, I think in terms of wins, it's the division that needs the most wins. Like 8 definitely doesn't guarantee it. Like 8, it's gonna come down to tiebreakers. You need 9.
Yeah.
So I still need to win at least 1.
All right, cool. Well, Race is in third place, and we'll see if this Control Warrior is able to pan off. But thanks so much for joining us for a brief interview, Monsanto. Congrats on the win.
Thank you.
All right, so Monsanto, turns out he was listening to some of his practice partners' opinions, and it always is funny when it works out that way, right? Because it's like if you lose, it's a convenient excuse. Yeah, I listened to player X and he convinced me or that this was the good deck to bring. It's their fault I lost. And then if you win, it's like, well, yeah, you know, I trust my players, my teammates. It's like you have the option select of a good interview clip.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how that works. And Eddie, even though Monsanto said he got bait in Control Warrior, Eddie also has Control Warrior. And he's going to be playing an interesting matchup against Amnesiac in the next series, which is Bomb Warrior from Amnesiac versus Control Warrior versus Eddie. So one of the things that we haven't seen very much, even in our first week of Grandmasters, we had 13 Warriors.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
But all of them were Bomb Warriors. Every single one. There was not a single pure Control Warrior. And now I think maybe even for the first time in Grandmasters, for Americas at least, we're seeing Control versus Bomb, which is kind of a little bit more of an interesting dynamic because one player is obviously the aggressor, which is the Bomb Warrior. So
and, yeah, Bomb Warrior has largely transitioned to be a tempo deck that's aggression-oriented, but has the flexibility of playing defensive if needed.
Yep.
But yes, that is the matchup that's coming up next. We have Amnesiac versus Eddie. It's going to be our only Warrior beer for today, so we'll be back in just a second with more Hearthstone action here in the Hearthstone Grandmasters.